right, hello. Welcome, everyone, to the House of Mystery, the John Constantine and Friends podcast. I am Michael, your host and curator of the House of Mystery. And in the house someplace, wandering around, possibly the basement, is the demon bisexual butler, David.
Well, it's been rather quiet around the basement, kind sir, because we haven't been around for a while, so there's no mess to clean up.
Okay. Thank you for that.
The ghosts have been very sated.
I like how when I go to you, you just give me an update on the cleanliness of the House of Mystery, as if that's really what I want to know about the cleanliness.
Well, you got to know once you're stepping
clean.
around. Everything's clean.
I said you're the butler. You're not the maid.
A butler does the same thing.
No, you should be giving me drinks. All right. So we are back for our 2023 House of Mystery podcast season. We are going to be sticking to a bit of a stricter schedule this year. Hopefully, no medical emergencies will cause us to change or alter our plans, but we will be working pretty consistently throughout the first quarter of 2023, starting with this very show, and we won't go to break until June. And we'll go to break for the summer and then come back in the fall. That's how our podcast season is supposed to be broken up. And what better way to start the year than getting into all of the ins and outs of the DC world and what's in store for 2023. I'm sure we don't know everything as of yet. However, we do have little bits and pieces of things that we can definitely discuss and theorize what it might mean for the world of DC. And when I say the world of DC, of course, on this show, I'm talking about the darker side of DC. And if you are new to the show, if you are a new listener, the House of Mystery, it's very easy to understand the premise. We are a John Constantine fan show, so we focus mostly on him, but we do delve into other areas of the darker side of DC. That's why the tagline of the show, a John Constantine and Friends podcast. So we deal more or less with the darker side of DC.
Yes. Please, no Batman.
Well, we love Batman, but we just don't do that here.
We just don't do that here.
Yeah. In fact, I haven't even wanted to break down Batman Damned, even though it's an amazing comic, especially for Constantine.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, you know what? There's enough of Batman out there. I don't think we need to do that.
I don't want a Batman enema, okay?
Why not? David, been down. You will take this Batman. It will clean out your system. You got to clean your colon with some Batman.
With some Batman.
It's called Batman colonics. So stupid. See, the Batman enema isn't cleaning out anything. What it is a Batman jism that just fills up your entire body and impregnates all of us. That's what DC's doing. It ain't no enema. They're not trying to clean out Batman. They're trying to insert more Batman inside of us. That's so foul.
That's so bad.
Yeah. All right, David. So most people out there know that there's been some pretty big things happening in the world of DC when it comes to the live action as well as the animation. And for some, it's great news. And for others, it's not great news.
Nope.
And for even others, it may just be more the same. A bit of a shrug, a shake of the head, and maybe a smirk. I think that's us. It's just like, what are you guys doing? What is this, take 20? When you're with your plans when it comes to DC, somebody fucking grab a hammer and nail down definitive plans, please.
Yes. Show me what you got when you get it. Okay. At this point.
Show me what you got when you get it.
Exactly.
Listen, I used to be that guy who used to hear news about an upcoming movie or comic book, and I'm like, okay, cool. I can
get
put
ready.
This over here, get ready to go, because it's coming out in 6 months. But that's not the case anymore when it comes to DC anything, whether it be, I mean, we've been waiting a year for Swamp Thing Green Hell to finish.
Please don't. Don't punch me in the gut with that one.
What the fuck is happening with everything DC? How, in this day and age, number one, let's start off the year complaining, David. How have we still not been given anything really with John Constantine in it? And I'll leave that alone because we've already got into all that.
Yes.
How is there nothing on the darker side of DC in James Gunn's plan, except one movie at the end of his 10-film slate. And we'll get into exactly what that is in a second. 10 movies, and not one thing is dealing with the darker side of DC. It's all the things we've seen before and things that they've been talking about for years that we were going to get, and now we're finally getting it.
Yes.
And I don't have much faith in that because, you know, I know a lot of people are saying, well, hey, listen, James Gunn's in charge, and they actually formed a studio called DC Studios that has spun off of Warner Brothers, and now Warner Brothers can't interfere. Warner Brothers didn't sell DC Studios.
Yes.
Or I should say their DC properties. They are still the parent company, and at any point when their shareholders, which is what, when it comes to Warner Brothers, that's what controls everything, is their shareholders. Most companies are like that, but also for some reason, these particular shareholders have a lot of say and control over what they do, and that is why we never have definitive plans. People may not be aware of that, and the reason why I'm aware of that is because I do a lot of things with Wall Street. I'm a bit of a stock fan. Like I don't do it for a living, but I'm into investments and stocks, and
yeah.
So I follow Wall Street a lot. And plus, if you want real news, what is that dumb like cliche? Follow the money. Well, listen, follow the money, and you get all that from Wall Street. You can see what studios are doing, and anytime there is issues going on with the box office or ratings, the shareholders step in because they want. They want their profits. They want their dividends. They want things to look great, right?
Yes.
So as long as we have shareholders piping in or butting in, nothing matters. James Gunn being in charge doesn't change a thing. Zack Snyder also had a contract to flesh out the world of DC, and they interfered after 3 movies.
Exactly. And that's why I have very little faith in DC Comics, especially in regards to the films, to the darker side of Disney.
Darker side of Disney? Well, let's talk about that.
Darker side of DC. Because, like,
oh boy,
everyone constantly has been pointing out, well, we're going to get the monster part of DC Comics with his Gods and Monsters run.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I'm looking at the Gods and Monsters run, and I'm like, your monsters are coming at the tail end of your phase.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, that's going to be like 7-8 years away. So we're not going to get any darker side of DC. Almost 10 years to this point. So I'm supposed to actually blue ball myself.
Yeah. So that's kind of how, I guess that's how we're setting the tone for the year, David. Basically, we get nothing.
We get nothing.
We get nothing. I feel like I'm Harry Potter and I'm being shoved underneath the staircase. You know?
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, everyone makes a big deal, has been telling, oh, Dave, you're going to be so excited, right, for Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I am excited for Swamp Thing.
I'm not.
Swamp Thing is
because we're never going to see it, Dave. Don't get excited. We're never going to
see it because it's 8 years away, people.
Yeah, I'm going to be dead. Yeah, so once again, we are left with absolutely nothing. Out of 10 films and shows planned, 1 will feature the darker side of DC, and that'll be a Swamp Thing movie, as David was alluding to. But it's also the last in James Gunn's 10 planned features / series, of which comprises his first so-called chapter.
Yes.
It's the last one. It's the 10th, which means, as you said, David, if we're lucky, we'll see it at the end of this decade.
Yeah.
If we're lucky.
Isn't that great, Mike? Just peachy, you know? And that's the thing I basically tell people is, like, when he came out with the plan, his plan, which is the God and Monsters phase, I gave a small little golf clap for him. I said, great job. You have a plan. At least it's a plan.
I'm not clapping at all until there's at least 5 movies out. 5 movies, and I'm not talking the ones that are already in the can, like Blue Beetle, Aquaman, Shazam.
Black Adam.
Well, not Black Adam. I'm talking about the things coming out currently.
Coming out.
Shazam, Flash, Aquaman. I'm not even considering those because those are already, and Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to count those because those films are already in the works. They're already in the can. I'm talking about James Gunn's first movie which doesn't even come out until 2025.
Exactly.
So we have nothing, guys, nothing on the TV side or movie side until at least 2025.
Yes.
So let's get into this, and we are going to bleed into the regular realm of DC a bit in order to flesh out the darker side of DC. We can't ignore the other DC news. Okay, so DC slate unveiled new Batman, of course, Supergirl movies, a Green Lantern TV show, and more from James Gunn and Peter Safran. The DC studio bosses shared 10 projects, talked about the exit of Henry Cavill, and addressed the potential future of Ezra Miller as the Flash as they introduce a slate of big heroes and lesser-known characters. The stakes are massive for us and for Warner Brothers, says Safran. Before we get into this, though, really fast, Dave, and this is, I want to put this into perspective for people that DC sucks. And when I say DC sucks, I'm not talking about DC property as a whole, because I love DC. I mean, I love the comics. I love the films that we do get for the most part.
Yes.
But DC as an organization, as a company, they just suck.
They do.
They suck. Think about this, David. In the last 40 years, they've had one franchise, Batman. The last time we had any real Superman's ongoing franchise was in the 70s, was Christopher Reeves. And since then, they have not managed to make a Superman series work.
And I want to actually back you up on that, because a lot of fans might be saying, well, they came out with like Man of Steel and Superman Returns. Mm-hmm. Those movies do not make a series.
No, those Superman Returns, well, I actually liked it for what it was. I understand people's complaints, but for the most part, I enjoyed it because it was meant to be a sequel to Superman 2.
Yes.
So I felt like the movie was fine, but the studio didn't like the reception, so they canned any future plans. Flash forward about 8 years later, you have Man of Steel. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And even though I enjoyed Superman or Batman vs. Superman, it wasn't really a true sequel to Superman. We didn't get an actual Man of Steel 2. So we have not had a real franchise being governed by Superman in any way since the 70s. So that takes us right back to Batman. Batman is the only successful franchise. And I say successful because it has been, but my point is, like, how do they know something else wouldn't be successful? They never try anything else except rebooting Batman every 10 to 12 years.
Exactly.
So, all right. So this is what they have planned, the first 10 films here. You ready, David?
Okay.
Creature Commandos, a 7-episode series written by Gunn. Waller, it's a spinoff of James Gunn's HBO Max hit series Peacemaker. So I guess we can assume that James Gunn's Suicide Squad will also remain.
Yeah.
Or not be axed like everything else. Superman Legacy, which is
that should be the
Superman reboot. And that's the first actual feature film. Lanterns. It's a Greg Berlanti, long in the works Green Lantern TV series that has been reworked over and over and over. And it was, I guess, the final version, the so-called final version, was actually scrapped when James Gunn and Safran came on board. So they will be doing that. The Authority. It's a movie based on a team of superheroes with rather extreme methods of protecting the planet. I think most people are familiar with that group. Paradise Lost, which is an HBO Max series. They are calling it a Game of Thrones style drama set on the all-female island that is Wonder Woman's birthplace. Themyscira, which sounds interesting. The Brave and the Bold, which is this is the launch of the new Batman for the DCU. Or what do they call it? The DCEU is what they call it.
Yeah, DCEU.
Yeah, and then you have the Batman sequel, which will be now titled Elseworlds. So that is one positive thing, and that's going to bleed into our next topic in a second when it comes to the Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves. The Batman sequel, as well as the Joker sequel, will now be rebranded as Elseworlds so that people are not confused, which to me is a no-brainer. I said this, like, when they first were planning Joker and the Batman, and they said that they would be disconnected. I'm like, oh, that's cool, but you're going to confuse the fuck out of audiences.
Yes.
And sure enough, they did. most audiences don't read blogs all the time to know what's going on. We do because we're uber comic nerds and we want to know what's going on in the world of comics and the TV properties.
Yeah.
But most people don't know what's happening. So when people see a preview with a whole new Batman, but then also a preview for Ben Affleck's Batman, and then what's the
Michael
Jared
Keaton.
Leto's Joker,
Yeah.
and then you have Joaquin Phoenix Joker, and then you have a Joker over here. It confuses the fuck out of people. So you have to fix it at least with branding. And if you explain what Elseworlds are or Elseworlds is, and you put that on as a subtitle or a tagline, then it's going to help alleviate some of that confusion. So I am glad they're doing that.
Yeah.
Then we have Booster Gold, an HBO Max series, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is going to be, I believe, a feature film.
Mm-hmm.
And then to end it, they end his first chapter is Swamp Thing, which will be his 10th film, which, if we're lucky, we'll see it by the end of this decade. So all you darker side of DC fans, guess what? We all have nothing to look forward to.
Yeah. Essentially, that's it. Because if you look at that rogues gallery or basically that slate of James Gunn's plan, there is zero talk about Justice League Dark. Anything
that's
dealing
done.
with them.
It's done. They trashed JJ's alleged plans that he had. It's done. So we will probably see Swamp Thing close to the end of the decade, hopefully, at least, and nothing for Constantine. So at this point, the only thing we have to cling to is Neil Gaiman's Sandman on Netflix. And hopefully he continues to flesh out Joanna Constantine so we can get something. We don't even know the current future of the announced sequel of the Keanu Reeves-led Constantine film, Constantine 2. We don't. Despite not being on James Gunn's slate, there has been reports, though, saying that Constantine 2 is still happening. It's more likely it's going to happen, and it will probably be put under the Elseworld title. So a couple things. Number one, that is complete conjecture. All these articles popping up saying that even though James Gunn left it off his list, it was probably an oversight. That's what these blogs are saying.
Uh-huh.
That's a big guess.
That is.
Why wouldn't James Gunn put you honestly think they're putting together their 10 films that they're planning? Hey, all right, guys, let's put together our list of movies, and they accidentally forgot Constantine 2. That's not happening when you're putting together a slate of films.
Especially when you're dealing with a box office name like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah,
and you mean to tell me he's not going to include Keanu Reeves, who is a bankable commodity, into his face?
I don't think they're doing it, David, at all.
Yeah.
I think it's done. Now, I know they have reached out recently, and Akiva Goldsman, I believe, said that it's still in the works, but I don't take Akiva Goldsman's word. I will not take Akiva Goldsman's words because he doesn't know anything really in the grand scheme of things. He's not making these decisions. Until I hear James Gunn say something about Constantine 2 being a go, then I'm not going to believe it. Because if it was meant to be on the list, it would have been on the list. So we'll see what happens. It's likely that we're never going to see it. And I don't understand, though, how I'm so confused, David.
You sound so hurt, Mike.
I'm confused with these executives and the decisions they make. Like, how do they make decisions like this? Like, we have Keanu Reeves ready to go, and you're fuck it. Like, nah, we're not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, think about
it's not going to happen, David, because he's already 58 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, how much longer are you going to push the man? He's been trying to get this movie done for 10, 12 years. Keanu Reeves has been advocating to get this done. Finally, there's a little bit of traction, and now we lose it again. And honestly, David, I would love to see Constantine 2, but at this point, fuck it, dude. It's done. I'm not going to say it's happening until I hear James Gunn say it's going to happen. And even then,
no.
yeah. I might be a little more confident, but even then, I'm not going to be overly optimistic because, as we know, nothing seems to be able to get done over at DC.
You know why? Because DC is trying to play catch up to Marvel, and they think that basically we're going to announce our slate ahead of time. That way people can see that we have a game plan. Hey, fantastic. Until you actually come out and execute the plan, all it is words at this point. You didn't see Marvel come out till later after their first phase and say this was phase 1.
They didn't start releasing. They didn't start releasing a slate to the public until well into the third phase. And why? Because they waited to see if their game plan would work. They released a bunch of movies to get us hyped up about it. DC seems to keep going, we have this plan. Well, are you going to release anything? No, we're going to cancel stuff. Yeah. And the thing is, we're not even going to get, the likelihood of us getting a TV show is slim too within this decade, because his 10 films / TV shows, that encompasses it all. Now, we could always find some type of reassurance in the arms of our animation. We have been happy to get Matt Ryan voice Constantine animations for the better part of 5 years?
Oh yeah.
But now James Gunn's plan also encompasses animation.
Oh yeah.
And live action and animation are going to be all told under one continuity. So now there's not even room to give us more
animation.
That's the thing. So think about this, David. We're not going to see anything on the darker side of DC, animation or live action, until the end of this decade.
Yeah. And the thing that's baffling, Mike, is like the last thing we get for animation wise is something on the darker side of DC. It is a Batman animation, but it actually deals with the darker side of magic in the DC universe. And that's the final animation, that movie that we'll ever get. And then after that, we have to wait for Creature Commandos. We have to wait for James Gunn's movement with his phase.
See, to me, David, and maybe other fans like us, to me, that list of films, it's not intriguing to me. I'm not overly excited about it.
I'm with you there. I mean, the only one that has me excited is The Authority. That's it. Because it's something different. And
But I'm just saying, David, it's all the same stuff. It's Superman being rebooted again.
Yep.
It's Batman being rebooted again. It's another Batman Elseworlds. We have the Joker Elseworlds. We have a few random TV shows, the Green Lantern TV show. But when it comes to things that we like, the things that we talk about on the show, there's none of it.
None of it.
And the sad thing is, like in years past, at least we can cross our fingers and hope that it maybe in 2024 we'll get something. But now we have the list in front of us. We know we're not getting anything.
And yeah, that's what ticks me off is like, I know everyone was excited to see about this. Oh, he finally came out with his own slate to actually show his game plan. No, don't show me a game plan. Just execute it. Just give me something.
Yeah.
You know, it showing us the game plan, in my opinion, now just basically I think the term is pigeonhole.
Yeah.
Pigeonholes him right into that game plan. And we look at it, well, there's nothing exciting for this in regards to the darker side of DC. We don't get the Zatanna film that we've always been talking about for the past couple shows. We don't get Justice League Dark.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing, fantastic. It's 10 years away.
Yeah, it's just very disappointing.
It's disappointing.
And then when we look to the comic side,
don't even get me started.
We could say, well, at least we have the comic side, but Swamp Thing Green Hell, a positive, finally coming out a year later.
I like how you gloss it over. A year later.
A year later, David. A year later.
A year later.
This must be like the Ark of the Covenant. Like they must have like life-changing text in this comic for it to be a fucking year delayed.
Yes.
Like when you read it, we better be enlightened so much that our face explodes like Kate Blanchett in the Crystal Skull. Like it's just too much fucking information. We now have all the answers of the universe in our mind. How? How does it take 2 years?
Yeah.
But at least we're getting it. At least we're getting issues 2 and 3, if you can believe the schedule. 2 came out a few days ago as of this recording.
It did.
So that we can say is out. And we do have it in the works in our schedule to cover it. 3 is supposed to be released next month. So we will see if that actually happens. Now, there is some good news from the comic front, and it started the 2023 year off, I think, fairly well for a lot of us. DC Harley Quinn Romances #1 is an anthology series, and we will be covering this as well. It's a whole plethora of stories, but the one we're going to be focusing on is titled Constantine in Grace.
Yes.
I'm very excited to get into that. It's been actually recommended now from a couple of our listeners that have reached out and mentioned it to us. Now, interestingly, Dave, a DC Romance highlights is a highlight of the Grace, which would make sense since it's under the Harley Quinn Romances title, right?
Yes.
So according to this article here, a DC romance highlights the tragic truth behind a supernatural superhero. So that's also something we can all look forward to when it comes to this Constantine story, because Deadman is also a big part of the story.
Yes.
And we just talked about him last year and how it's a travesty that we don't get anything Deadman related as well.
Yet the one story that did come out arguably was one of the best titles me and you have ever seen, with Deadman. Oh my God, I can't remember the title of it now, but it's the gothic horror one that basically had him dealing with a
Dark
ghost.
Mansion.
Yeah. Was it Mansion of Love? No.
I thought it's Dark Mansion of Love.
Dark Mansion of Love. There it is.
That sounds like a porno.
But it's perfect for Deadman.
oh, Forbidden Love is what it's called. Dark Mansion of Forbidden Love.
But
I think
we got that, and that was it.
We don't even know what we're talking about. It's called Deadman, Dark Mansion. Oh yeah, Dark Mansion of Forbidden Love.
Forbidden
We're right.
Love. Yeah. But we got that, and it was that was like a gem that no one was talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's how we're going to be spending most of our year, is we're going to be getting into some older titles. We're going to spend some time throughout the first quarter of 2023 getting back into our Hellblazer discussions, old school Hellblazer, picking up where we left off with issues 3, 4, and 5. That's what we'll cover for the first quarter of 2023, along with various other titles as well, which we went through on our Oblivion Bar discussion. I'm not going to go through it again.
Yes.
Okay, David. Also, DC Spirit World title brings in new hero Xanath.
Yes.
And the reason why I bring this up, and we might have mentioned this during a discussion last year.
Yes, we did.
But there's a little bit more news pertaining to this title. And the reason why we're even talking about it is because the new hero Xanath is joined by John Constantine and Cassandra Cain, which are both bisexual characters, right? Cassandra Cain is, I know.
Cassandra Cain, and
wasn't
of
sure,
course, John Constantine is
yeah,
too.
of course. So Dawn of DC, the publisher's initiative to expand its line with new and relaunched titles, is growing in May with 3 new titles, the first of which is titled Spirit World, spinning out of February 14th's Lazarus Pit, or Lazarus Planet, Dark Fate #1, Spirit World by writer Alyssa Wong and artist Hanning Stars. New DC hero Xanath, a non-binary Chinese hero with a connection to the spirit world.
I like how you slow down after that. Just because it's kind of like, I hate to say it, I have really high hopes for this series. And when we first mentioned a while back, I was touting that this is going to be good because, we're going to be getting new stories and new takes on John Constantine because he's going to have this protege in Xanath. And then Lazarus Planet came out, and then I had to look at people that messaged me and said what I think. I said, I am sorry. I want to formally apologize about Lazarus Planet. It didn't turn out as good as I thought.
Yeah, that's why we're not going to cover it. Told you, Dave.
And I instantly my hesitation with Spirit World number 1 coming out now is more than ever, because it's supposed to follow the initiative led by not by Tom King, but led by Tom Taylor.
Well, hold on a second. Tom Taylor is leading the new branding
because he's
Dawn of DC.
Yes.
No, he's not. Shut up.
Because he's doing the first title, which is Titans. That's leading everything off. Everyone's following.
Okay,
him.
but he's not in charge creatively of the entire thing.
I'm not sure, but the fact that he's leading off usually means, Mike,
he may shape the initial storyline, but
yes,
he's not in charge of the DC.
And his John Kent is taking front and center of everything. So, I
don't know what that was, that noise, but
we know Tom Taylor's.
That was my mockery.
Yes, we know his handling of Constantine was not very well received by us. So now that I know
but Alyssa Wong though is writing this, and as we said last year, she is. She's writing Xanath. She is writing this title with Constantine, and I've never read anything besides her Dr. Aphra, the Star Wars Dr. Aphra title, which it's fun. It's not overly filled with, it's not like it's being written by our favorites, you know, but she is more than capable as a writer. So I am waiting to see what this will turn out to be. I can't imagine it being awful with Alyssa Wong writing it, but we'll see. Xanath's powers allow them to summon objects from the spirit world by crafting them out of joss paper. What? What's joss paper?
That is basically like a spirit scroll from Asia.
Yeah. A traditional East Asian incense paper. Yes. I should have kept reading. That is often burned in remembrance of dead loved ones. Alongside Xanath, who is described as a master of the dark arts, the 6-issue Spirit World Limited series also brings in John Constantine and Cassandra Cain / Batgirl for an adventure that delves into the spirit world itself. We'll see.
And like how you basically say, we'll see. Because I'm kind of really hoping Alyssa Wong does the title well, but I have hesitation that basically it's originally I was thinking Constantine's going to take front and center to teach Xanth the ropes and be kind of like that mentor figure. But then, you begin to realize that more Batman characters are going to take front and center in this.
Yeah.
With Cassandra Cain and, of course, the Devil Neja that's going to be sticking around, a version of Batman as the big bad of the entire DC run at this point. So I'm really worried that basically Constantine's not going to be actually as strong of a front and center character as we'd hope. Which would mean, Mike, we will not have a Constantine strong title for
Constantine led?
Yeah. For another year.
Well, yeah. For the foreseeable future.
For the foreseeable future.
That's crazy to me, Dave. I wonder what's happening over there at DC, why they can't give us something Hellblazer related. I'm wondering if the last Hellblazer run just kind of soured it.
Which is weird because the Hellblazer run was very well received.
Critically, it was received well, but as we know, it wasn't selling.
No one was selling it. And then Tom Taylor
buying it, you mean?
Yeah, Tom Taylor came around and basically released his Heaven and Hell.
I don't remember.
You don't want to remember. But
was it Angels and Demons or something like that, or
something like that? But
who cares?
Then he came out with his,
it from my memory.
That series kind of killed all the Constantine momentum because everyone read it and said this is a horrible story.
Well, Tom Taylor fans loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so good.
This is how we wanted Constantine to be.
It wasn't that great. We're being very negative today, aren't we?
We are because
but is there reason to be happy though in 2023?
Not really. Not for us.
That's
Maybe
what I'm
for
saying.
everybody else.
There's nothing great going on when it comes to the darker side of DC, and that's why we're going to be delving into some of the classics
Well, especially since,
in order to keep us happy.
Especially since like for the past year, me and you have been covering like the possibilities of seeing like a Zatanna film, and I was really hyped to see that. And
Well, we were looking forward to that, right?
Yeah. And we were looking forward to all those movies that dealt with the darker side of DC. And I get it. James Gunn has his game plan. He will follow his game plan to the letter. Fine, whatever. But the fact that basically because he came up with this game plan, this slate of gods and monsters right away, it killed all these other movies that we were all looking forward to.
Yeah.
No Constantine 2, no Zatanna film, no Justice League Dark, the Swamp Thing film, which we've been talking for years that's going to be coming out. Now he basically said it's coming out in 10 years.
Well, we're assuming. You keep saying 10 years. I don't think it's going to be 10 years, but I do feel like it's going to be closer to the end of the decade.
I think you're right, but I have a bad feeling.
If this is going to take 10 years to get to Swamp Thing, DC's already dead.
Exactly.
They need to release at least 2 or 3 films a year like Marvel was doing.
But
but they don't have the money nor the creative prowess to do so, and I feel like they understand that. They don't have the ability to do what Marvel's doing, so they're going really slow, and I don't know if that's sustainable.
Yeah.
How are you going to sustain the excitement of fans when you're going so slow?
Yeah. Because like current fans are going to be like looking at this saying, okay, are you making it for us? Or are you making it for the fans that will come out in 10 years? That is such a messed up strategy, in my opinion, when it comes to actually doing a franchise.
Yeah. Well, David, hopefully there's a few surprises this year. Hopefully we will hear something about the Keanu Reeves Hellblazer. I'm hoping something. Maybe because it's being produced by JJ as well as Akiva Goldsman, maybe it's not really a part of what's going on. Maybe it's functioning from a bit. Let's look at this from a business perspective, or the business side. Maybe I don't think it is, though.
No.
I was thinking maybe it's kind of like the licensing of Sandman and Neil Gaiman over at Netflix, but I don't think it is.
I think honestly that's the one beacon of hope for us at this point is Sandman on Netflix.
And Neil Gaiman we trust.
Yeah,
that's all we have.
Because Neil Gaiman basically said his Sandman is his. That is contractually his baby. James Gunn be damned. He's not going to be.
Well, it's more than that. It's not just that he owns it, because he's still beholden. I know people keep saying because it's not DC, but it is DC. Sandman is DC. It's just Vertigo. It's no different than Warner Brothers and AT&T and DC Studios. It's all owned by the same people.
Yeah, and like unfortunately with James or JJ, hey. Me and you have talked about we've talked about J.J. Abrams in the last couple shows, and basically said he didn't even come out. He's been touting that he has a Constantine film. He didn't even come out with casting yet.
Yeah.
How long has it been? I don't think J.J. is going to have anything to do in the DC universe now.
Well, then the only thing we have to look forward to, and that's how I want to end our discussion today, is the potential spinoff. Not a lot of people have been talking about this, but in October of last year, Joanna Constantine actress Jenna Coleman confirmed that she, Neil Gaiman, and Alan Heinberg had discussed a potential Joanna Constantine spinoff solo series of The Sandman about her character, stating that it was a good idea that they were really behind. I need that to happen now.
I do too. She's done a fantastic job in that series, to the point where I know a lot of fans hated the fact that they replaced Constantine with Joanna Constantine.
Did they really, though? Or I know there was a little bit of a backlash with the whole gender bending thing, because there were people that I don't believe were real DC fans or Constantine fans. They were just the whole anti-woke mob.
The anti-woke mob. That was it. But like, because she did such a great job, and they did a great job actually fleshing out more about Joanna Constantine, I want to see a series based around her.
She was great.
She was great.
I really liked Jenna Coleman's portrayal of Joanna Constantine, and I mean the execution of all the episodes relating to Joanna Constantine is literally, and we talked about this during our review of the first 5 episodes that we did. It's some of the best elements of the darker side of DC we've ever been given. All of Sandman was, but specifically the Joanna Constantine stuff is everything that I would have imagined a Constantine show should look like.
Oh yeah.
From the very beginning to the end of that, her main episode, it was episode 3, I believe she was in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good thing. And if Netflix is all about it, I know the only thing is that Netflix is currently going through the same upheavals as many studios currently. Right now, they're finally realizing that not everyone can have streaming services. So they're in the midst of canceling, raising prices, adding commercial tiers onto streaming platforms. I believe Netflix is going to launch their commercial-based tier next year. So a lot of companies are struggling and canceling a lot of things. So I don't think the Joanna spinoff would probably happen anytime soon, just because they're being very careful with what they greenlight. If anything, we might see it after Sandman itself ends.
I think that that's the smart thing to do, because I think from the last couple of interviews I've seen with Neil Gaiman, he's really trying to push hard to actually pushing his own universe, which he created in Vertigo, to be its own thing.
A Sandman universe live action.
To make it actually its own thing. So if he can actually do Joanna Constantine, then he could do other characters from that rogues gallery and bring them in.
I'm all about that.
And the thing I thought was really smart for those who watched Sandman was Gaiman made the idea and the bloodline of Constantine the important part. So he didn't totally get rid of John Constantine. He made his bloodline important. That was the whole point. Make Joanna Constantine the focal point. That doesn't mean we won't see John Constantine down the line. So I would love to see what Neil Gaiman does with the character and the possibilities that he can do.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having a Sandman universe live action. That would be pretty cool. But just right now, currently, I feel like a lot of properties outside of the obvious are going to be dispersed very slowly, because we're right now in the midst of an industry upheaval and change like we've never seen in our lifetime. The last time we had this type of shakeup was in the 1950s, when movie attendance was dropping
at its lowest,
at an alarming rate, and the studios were left trying to scramble, trying to figure out what to do. And I want to say that's the last big shakeup. And then we had the 70s come along with the rise of the tentpole blockbuster film, and that kind of changed Hollywood into what they call New Hollywood. And now we've been kind of in that same funk until, I don't know, maybe early 2000s. And then we have the rise of the superhero era, and that has kept the studios alive for the most part. But now the superhero films are also starting to age a bit, and they're not as, even though people are still seeing Marvel films, a lot of the hype around some of them, it's starting to die a bit.
It is.
And the streaming services during coronavirus thought that they were going to be the next big thing, and they tried to change the entire business seemingly overnight by releasing everything on streaming platforms, and they quickly realized that they're losing so much money.
Yeah.
They can't do these amount of TV shows. They can't do these types of films on streaming platforms, and now they have all gone back to the drawing board to reassess and figure out a better strategy of releasing these. And that's why we see Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, CBS / Paramount Plus all going and canceling shows at an alarming rate, because they just greenlit so much and they realize that there's just way too much competition. They have fragmented the audience down to such a degree that it's now hard to make money, which anybody could have told them that you can't make a $70 million streaming service film. You will never get your money back. Even with the idea of economy of scales, it's very hard to get your money back when you're asking for $5 a month on a streaming platform as opposed to $14 per person at the theater. Those are the types of ways you earn money on $70 million pictures. You're not going to make it on a streaming platform. You're just not. And that's why we're going to see those slowly start to fall away until these studios start making money again. So, yes, it's not just bad for DC fans. It's bad for anybody that wants anything outside of Marvel. It's going to be a very slow dispersal of content for the foreseeable future. So on that note, I hate to depress everybody, but that's just how it is. But we're going to make the best of this year. We are going to have fun. David, before we close out, I do want to preview a few things.
Yes.
We are going to go back in the next couple months, and we're going to do a formal analysis of NBC's pilot episode for John Constantine. And when I say detailed analysis, that's just exactly what it is. We're not going to do a review. We're going to break it down through the lens of film theory. And then we're going to do the same thing with the Swamp Thing pilot.
Yeah. So this is going to be completely different than what was released prior with reviews.
Right. So we're going to do the Swamp Thing pilot. And the reason why we're doing them together, or I should say as a bit of a theme, is because they're both, people may not be aware of this, but they're actually both executive produced by the exact same gentleman.
Yes.
So the showrunner for Constantine was also the showrunner for the Swamp Thing, the very short-lived Swamp Thing series as well. And then we probably will do a third discussion where we contrast the two elements and also discuss the obvious bad luck that this executive producer has. Good luck, bad luck, because he gets to, show run two of the greatest characters in comic book history, but they both get canceled.
They both got canceled.
Which doesn't make sense, because if they sucked, I would say, yeah, okay, it serves you right. But both of them were pretty damn good. So that's why we want to go back and take a look at those in a more formal way. So that's something that I feel like our DC listeners and our John Constantine fans would enjoy. So we'll do that. All right, David, this does bring us to the end. Thank you.
Thank you.